Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please subscribe and keep watching for more detailed videos. When falling in love means facing the past, the story is never simple. And that's where Tyler Hynes quietly excels. Beneath the soft lighting, snowy streets, and gentle Hallmark endings lies something deeper in many of his most memorable roles. His characters often carry emotional scars, unfinished chapters, and choices they wish they could undo. Love doesn't arrive as a reward for them. It arrives as a challenge, a mirror, and sometimes, reckoning. Again and again, Tyler Hynes portrays men who are not running toward romance, but away from something unresolved. A broken relationship, a lost dream, a family wound that never healed. These characters don't fall in love easily, because love asks them to reopen doors they worked hard to shut. And that tension is what gives his stories their darker edge. In these films, love is rarely lighthearted at first. It interrupts carefully built emotional defenses. His characters are often settled into emotional isolation, convinced that staying guarded is safer than risking pain again. They may appear calm, confident, even charming on the surface, but there is always an ache underneath. The kind of ache that doesn't disappear with time, only with truth. What makes these stories powerful is how the past is never treated as background decoration. It actively shapes every choice his character makes. When love enters the picture, it doesn't erase the past. It forces a confrontation with it. Old mistakes resurface. Regrets demand acknowledgement. And the audience is invited to watch a man slowly realize that love requires courage he thought he no longer possessed. Often, Tyler's characters have already been loved and lost before the story even begins. That loss becomes a silent presence in every interaction. It explains the hesitation, the emotional distance, the reluctance to believe that happiness can last. When a new romantic connection begins to grow, it feels dangerous, almost forbidden. Not because the love interest is wrong, but because hope itself feels risky. There's a recurring emotional pattern in these darker love stories. First comes resistance. His character keeps things polite, surface level, controlled. Then comes disruption. The love interest challenges his assumptions, not through grand gestures, but through persistence and emotional honesty. And finally comes the breaking point, when the past can no longer stay buried. What makes these moments resonate is Tyler Hynes' ability to play silence. He doesn't over-explain pain. A pause, a look away, a softened voice is enough to tell us that something hurts. When the past is finally spoken aloud, it feels earned, heavy, real. And when love survives that moment, it feels meaningful rather than convenient. In several of his darkest romantic arcs, the past involves personal failure. A career choice that cost him someone he loved. A promise he didn't keep. A moment when fear won over bravery. These characters aren't haunted by villains or dramatic tragedy alone. They're haunted by themselves. That self-blame becomes the real antagonist of the story. Love, in these cases, doesn't magically fix anything. It doesn't rewrite history. Instead, it offers forgiveness, often starting with self-forgiveness. Tyler's characters must learn that they are not defined solely by their worst moments. That lesson doesn't come easily. It's fought for, resisted, and sometimes nearly lost. Another recurring theme is emotional isolation disguised as independence. His characters often appear self-sufficient, content in solitude, and uninterested in emotional vulnerability. But as the story unfolds, it becomes clear that this independence is armor. A way to avoid disappointment. Love threatens to strip that armor away. When the romantic connection deepens, the stakes rise. Suddenly, staying guarded means hurting someone else. And that's when the darkest internal conflict emerges. Is it better to walk away and protect them from your emotional damage, or stay and risk repeating old mistakes? Tyler's performances live in that question. There's also a subtle realism in how these love stories handle fear. Fear isn't portrayed as weakness. It's portrayed as human. His characters are afraid of failing again, of trusting again, of believing again. And love doesn't erase that fear overnight. It coexists with it, slowly teaching them that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward anyway. What separates these stories from lighter romances is the emotional cost of love. Happiness is never free. It demands honesty. It demands vulnerability. It demands confronting painful truths that would be easier to avoid. And when Tyler's characters finally choose love, it feels like a victory not over circumstance, but over themselves. In some stories, the past is tied to family, a strained parental relationship, a childhood wound that shaped adulthood. These emotional fractures quietly influence how his characters love. They may struggle with trust, commitment, or believing they are worthy of happiness. Love becomes a space where those beliefs are tested. The romance in these films isn't rushed. It grows through conversation, shared moments, and emotional recognition. The love interest often sees through the walls before the character is ready to admit they exist. And when that happens, it's uncomfortable, even as they move toward hope. The past can be faced, but it can't be erased. Loss still matters. Mistakes still count. And Tyler Hynes' characters don't forget who they were before love found them again. They carry that history forward, wiser and more open. That emotional weight gives the happy ending its power. When love finally wins, it doesn't feel naive. It feels hard-earned. It feels chosen. It feels like a promise made with eyes wide open, fully aware of what could go wrong. The women in these stories are not passive answers to pain. They are mirrors. They reflect back the parts of him he refuses to see. They don't demand perfection, but they do demand honesty. And in doing so, they force his character to confront the belief that love must always end in loss. These relationships grow not because the past disappears, but because it is finally acknowledged. These darker love stories resonate because they reflect real emotional journeys. Many people know what it's like to want love but fear the pain it might bring, to crave connection but hesitate because of past hurt. Tyler Hynes brings that contradiction to life in a way that feels honest rather than idealized. Tyler Hynes' darkest love stories often hinge on one quiet realization. The past doesn't lose its power when you ignore it. It loses its power when you share it. When his characters finally open up, there's a rawness that feels earned. Love doesn't erase their mistakes or undo their grief. It simply creates space for those experiences to exist without defining the future. His characters don't change because love demands it. They change because love gives them permission to be honest about who they are and who they've been. And in doing so, they discover that facing the past isn't about punishment. It's about release. These are the love stories that linger long after the screen fades to black. Not because they are perfect, but because they are true. In the end, when falling in love means facing the past, the greatest transformation isn't the romance itself. It's the emotional courage it awakens. Tyler Hynes' darkest love stories remind us that the most powerful love isn't the one that arrives without pain, but the one that survives it. Come back to our channel for all your updates. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel.